It's absolutely impossible to complain about today. But he, just minor details, it's an absolutely spectacular day. I've always associated Nick with grinning. And today, I think whatever that grin was, I've caught it. I've been grinning all day. I've been trying to get rid of it, but I'm hoping by the time I get back to London, everything will have relaxed a bit. And in fact, when I first met Nick, our staff room is a little bit bigger than this room, but it tends to be filled with people. Many of these messages are sort of taking me back to sort of people complaining about the weather and it being dark and miserable, and people are moaning about 5 Set 4 that they've got to teach again, and it's full of little horrors. And our school, it was full of classes that were quite difficult. And so many of the teachers were quite miserable. And then when I first become aware of Nick, he's not miserable at all. He comes bounding in with a smile on his face, and everyone's sort of... And then he met Jen. And
big events.
Sorry? And then it wasn't just a smile, but the grin got even bigger. And his sort of grin became absurdly contagious. And he would come in and the bundle of happy energy would come in and sit down the corner of a room, and like some horribly contagious disease, you would get these sort of miserable-looking people suddenly sort of smiling a little bit, grow across the room. And it's something I became more and more aware of, because suddenly people in the staff room were starting to smile. And this was quite a shock for me. So I actually thought, well, sort of find out a bit more. So I actually sort of got to know Nick a lot more. I knew him quite a bit after that, but after he met Jen, it was really quite sort of wonderful seeing him get more and more excited about everything. And it wasn't just sort of, it was everything. And so I had to try and find one negative thing to say about it. No, I'm going to go back to some positive things later. So I thought I've got to find something negative. I don't know anything negative about Nick, because everything is just positive. He's positive about everything. There must be something negative. So I went digging at school, and I went and I tried to find something. I went and talked to the assistant headmaster, and he said, Mr. Sharp. No, can't think of a single thing wrong. No, sorry. The headmaster had moved on, so we had a new headmaster who didn't really cross paths with Nick. So I went to see his old head of department, who said, no, Nick was wonderful. In fact, it's terrible to lose him. In fact, our whole department's really been crushed since he's gone. And then he said, actually, there is something. There is something. It's very small. Very small. And so I said, well, what is it? Well, he said, actually, no, it's nothing. I said, no, you've got to tell me this. No, worry, it's actually nothing really. So, you can't do that. You've got some dirt on Mr. Sharp. You've got to tell me now. Well, he said, well, actually, it's no, forget it. So I said, okay, well, tell me something else. Now, how can I object? You're a physicist, Mr. Sharp. Nick is a physicist. How can I describe this sort of bundle of energy, this sort of amazing energy that he has? There must be some way that I can objectively describe that to people who, and some of you won't know Nick as well as Jen. Obviously, none of us know him as well as Jen. Some of you won't, but I thought I might try and explain it. And suddenly his face became a bit long. At that point, Mr. Archer, who sends his love to both of you, and he suddenly looked rather miserable. And I thought, oh dear. And he said, well, that bad thing I was going to say about Nick, it's to do with infrared. Infrared. I don't know anything about infrared. He said, yeah, you know, 0.7 nanometers to 1,000 micrometers, or something along those lines, I think. Oh, actually, no, it's 1,000 nanometers, which is actually 1,000,000 micrometers. I got a little bit confused at that point and have given you the wrong figures, but it's that sort of wavelength, that broad of, I think it's 10 to the minus 6 to 10 to the minus 9 meters. That's it. That's it. That's the infrared band. And he said that if you had one of those little sensors, you could probably measure the amount of energy coming off it. And if you bring it closer to him, it would read more and more radiation if you were further away. And possibly you could use that to measure all that energy coming off them. And then you could go around to other people and say, look, there's a lot less radiation coming off these people. And look, whoa! And then when he's closer to Jen, it gets even higher, and then that would be quite useful. But unfortunately, we no longer have a working sensor because this hugely valuable probe. Mr. Sharp was teaching a lesson about radiation, infrared radiation. And he was telling them all the facts and figures, about 0.7 to 1,000 micrometers and million nanometers and all those bits, and 10 to the minus 6, 10 to the minus 9, and all the boys scribbling away. And then he said, for example, here's a sensor, and here's a cup of hot water, and we get closer to the cup of hot water, and closer and closer and closer and closer. See the radiation getting higher and higher, and pop! And it goes, and apparently it wasn't waterproof. It short-circuited and died, this hugely expensive thing. But the wonderful thing is that I teach now some of the cleverest boys in the school. And they were around when Mr. Sharp was there. And I said, I'm terribly sorry, I'm going to be away next week, so I'm really sorry, I'm not going to be able to teach you. Because I'm off to Mr. Sharp's wedding. They said, Mr. Sharp! He's the one who brought his cup of tea into the class and had those hugely expensive sensors. And said, look at this, and it gets closer and closer, the radiation gets greater and greater, and then he stirred his cup of tea with the sensor until it closed. And then he took the second sensor that the school had, because the first one was working, and he brought it forward and shoved it into his cup of tea again, and stirred his tea, making some comment about this first sensor wasn't very good, so I'll try the second. I didn't verify this story with Mr. Arch. It's true. Right, so finally got some dirt on. Anyway. So he has done one thing wrong in his life. But one thing he hasn't done wrong is get together with Jen, because it's just been wonderful seeing him get more and more excited. And as I said, it is very sad that he left our school because everyone's back to moaning and was miserable. And it was really nice having this sort of glowing area in the corner with everyone sort of not able to be miserable because you had Nick in the corner running away and everyone's sort of smiling as well, and it was really sad that everyone's gone back to moaning. But he is multi-talented, and I actually have a card that I was going to give you from, there's an old man that we used to go running with. Yes, he said everything he wanted to say is on the surface of the card, and he said, please give this to him while you're giving the talk, so that's for the two of you. And there's one other thing that I was just wanting to say, that since meeting Jen, it's pretty wonderful, because Jen seems to get as excited about things as he does.